This innovative robo-turret, which can cruise around the battlefield on its own, feels like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But believe it or not, it's just a startup that kicked off back in 2014, right when the Russians first decided to roll into Ukraine. Fast forward to January of this year, and Ukraine officially signed contracts to mass-produce the remote-controlled combat module Shablia. So this little startup idea has now turned into a deadly weapon, one that keeps soldiers out of harm's way. And if you don't take my word for it, just listen to the platoon commander for one of Ukraine's most battle-hardened battalions. It's going to cut down troop losses and, naturally, cause a lot of headaches for the enemy. Just from a psychological standpoint, having one of these things roll up on you is unsettling. There's a machine gun staring you down, and you've got no clue how to take it out. And trust me, taking it out isn't exactly easy. The Shablia turret can hit targets from up to 2 miles away, equipped with a video camera and thermal imaging. Just like our channel is equipped with fresh and exciting videos, hit the like button. With its detection and observation tools and remote control, the operators of this robo-turret can fire while staying safely out of harm's way. But it's not the only bot Ukrainians are deploying. Robots that look more like something out of Black Mirror, robotic dogs, have already joined the ranks of Ukraine's armed forces. Here's what a soldier in the unit using these robo-dogs has to say about this innovation. We've been working on this idea for nearly a year now. We've fine-tuned this robot, and with a few more tweaks, let's just say it'll be polished up and ready to serve as a multifunctional weapon. These compact, tough, and agile 4-legged ground drones are operated remotely and can go where aerial drones can't, like inside buildings or right into Russian trenches. Besides reconnaissance, they can carry light loads and even search for booby traps left by Russian forces. There are already 30 of these robotic dogs at the front. Thanks to their small size and camouflage, they're nearly impossible to spot. They move across the battlefield at speeds up to 6 miles per hour and operate within a 2-mile range for up to 5 hours. And the price? Depending on the model, they range from 4,000 to 8,000 euros. Not too bad for a device that saves lives. Another brilliant improvisation by Ukrainian forces is using training planes to shoot down Russian drones. The Ukrainian armed forces have successfully deployed 50-year-old Yak-52 trainer aircraft for this task. We're seeing videos of these piston-engined Yak-52s taking down Russian recon drones like the Orlan-10, Zala, Supercam, and others. The fun part? The Yak-52 isn't equipped to carry actual air-to-air weapons, so the job of shooting falls to the passenger in the instructor's seat, who, believe it or not, fires at the Russian drones with a shotgun. With a shotgun blast, about 50 pellets fly out, and even if 1 or 2 hit the target, it's enough to mess up that bird, big or small, ensuring it won't be flying much farther. The effectiveness of this crew is extremely high, and Russian troops have begun to pay special attention to the pilot and gunner's hunting, as well as to the board itself. Now, let's take a look at these Frankenstein creations of this war. It's pretty fascinating. A video surfaced online showing Ukrainian soldiers using an improvised multiple rocket launcher. It's an unusual setup, with 2 launch blocks for S-8 rockets, old Soviet air-to-ground rockets likely dug up from ancient stockpiles, mounted on an MTLB chassis. Interestingly, the Ukrainian armed forces actually tried to produce this wonder weapon about 10 years ago. Back in 2015, they created 5 experimental multiple rocket launcher systems. For the first prototype, they used the chassis of a Strela 10 anti-aircraft system, swapping the anti-aircraft launchers for blocks of unguided rockets. But the project was shelved because these improvised launchers, with a range of just 3 miles, weren't very effective in the positional warfare back then in eastern Ukraine. Now, though, it seems this approach might just work. And believe it or not, air-to-ground rockets are far from the weirdest things you can stick on a lightly armored tractor. Some soldiers from a special ops unit decided to mount an artillery gun onto an armored tractor. This time, they slapped a captured MT-12 Rapira anti-tank gun onto a trophy MTLB. This improvised self-propelled artillery has at least one clear advantage: much better mobility for that artillery piece. But It's not exactly clear where they stashed the ammo or how they're protecting the crew. Besides the standard shield on the gun, there's really nothing else keeping the crew safe. But hey, this is just one experimental setup. Up next is another DIY project that's become quite the hit in the Ukrainian army. Improvised rocket systems on vehicle bases have become pretty common in this war. Take this one for example. Here we have an MLRS setup on a pickup with extra stabilization. It's even rigged to fire 80mm unguided S-8 rockets, which we talked about earlier. And check this out. Ukrainian volunteers are repurposing scrapped or partially damaged 40-barrel BM-12 Grad launchers, turning them into mini-Grads mounted on pickup trucks. These makeshift MLRS units are already in use by some frontline units, and they've done quite well. Quick, accurate, and ready to roll on any terrain. Here's what the soldiers have to say about coming up with this DIY rocket system. You're always wanting something better. A lot of guys in the unit are full of ideas. They see something, they want to make it happen, to add something new. So we decided to build this machine to support the whole unit. And let's not forget another clever improvisation, or rather upgrade, the FPV drones, which have evolved into a makeshift air defense system. Given the high cost of anti-aircraft missiles, Ukrainian soldiers decided to use FPVs not only against Russian infantry and equipment, but also to take down airborne targets. And besides being cheap, these drones come with a few extra perks. They're smaller and lighter than any missile, meaning a single team can launch a lot more of them. Plus, since they're drones, there's the option to use them in swarms. An FPV anti-air drone is objectively the smallest, simplest, most mobile, and cheapest air defense weapon out there. Even better, these drones have passive guidance, which modern helicopters can't counter since their systems are designed to dodge traditional missiles, mainly infrared-guided ones. And we've got plenty of evidence showing these drones taking down Russian recon UAVs and even chasing after helicopters. There have only been a few direct hits so far, but Ukrainian soldiers and developers keep improving these weapons. What's next? Ukrainians decided to combine a missile and a drone. This invention caught attention this summer during President Zelensky's speech. The first and successful use of our new weapon took place, a completely new class of weapon, the Ukrainian drone missile. This long-range weapon was specially developed by the Ukrainians for long-range strikes, and they named it Palyanytsia. Ironically, this very word, meaning bread, is used by Ukrainian forces to identify enemy saboteurs. Turns out, Russians just can't pronounce it. Unfortunately, not much is known about this weapon. All we know is that Palyanytsia is made according to the classical aerodynamic scheme. That is, the wings are located in the middle part of the missile, and the warhead is in the front of the drone missile. What's interesting is that the idea for this missile-drone hybrid came after yet another successful piece of military improvisation, which Ukrainians pulled off back in December 2022. Then, an unknown weapon hit the Russian strategic aviation base in Engels, 370 miles from the Ukrainian border. Later, it became known that Ukraine used an old Soviet reconnaissance drone, Tu-141 Strych, for the attack. These were large drones with jet engines capable of reaching near sonic speeds. And honestly, it's a miracle that this Soviet relic, manufactured back in the 70s, managed to survive at all. Well, survive might be a bit of a stretch. Ukrainians upgraded these aircraft by swapping out the old aerial photography equipment for a powerful warhead. Just like that, they turned a drone into a budget-friendly version of a cruise missile. This experiment with the Strych drones was a success, and it seems Ukrainians decided to double down on this approach to develop their own powerful and precise hybrid, a missile drone. And if you compare the Tu-141 Strych with the new Ukrainian missile drone, you could say that Palyanytsia is a sophisticated and high-tech solution for striking the Russians. Though Ukraine's next invention in this war might seem less refined to some, it's already caused quite a few headaches for the Russians, especially for their navy. While Ukrainians weren't the first to create unmanned surface drones, they were the first to make them kamikaze style, capable of hitting targets up to 500 miles away. Equipped with night vision and compact enough to slip past Russian radar, these unmanned mini-ships have helped tip the balance in the Black Sea, curbing Russia's Black Sea fleet. We've covered this in more detail in this video you see in the info card. One of the highlights this year, MAGURA V5 drones managed to sink two large Russian landing ships, the Caesar Kunikov and the Sergei Kotov. Ironically, the latter was supposedly patrolling against Ukrainian sea drones. Additionally, these drones took down the missile boat Ivanovets, which was armed with supersonic missiles that Russia could have used to target civilian grain ships in the Black Sea. So you could say the MAGURA V5 has negotiated its own grain corridor with Putin. But Ukrainians aren't only using these drones as kamikazes. According to the New York Times, Ukrainian sea drone operators have conducted several dozen remote mining operations, forcing the Russian fleet to stay over 200 nautical miles from Ukrainian shores. In other words, Ukraine has effectively paralyzed the enemy's fleet, not only sinking some ships, but also keeping others locked up at their bases, too scared to set sail. This success even led to the creation of a special sea drone brigade, the world's first unit of its kind, proving the scale of these unmanned operations. It seems that the Russian fleet may have to give up its dominance in the Black Sea, or perhaps even its existence altogether.
How effective are the Russian defenses against these drones?
Not effective. The equipment they have on their ships is designed to attack other ships. They can't hit such small drones. These are faster than anything else in the Black Sea.
Which of these DIY weapons do you think is the most effective? Drop a comment below and make sure to subscribe to our channel.